from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to our Monday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. Happy to be here with you. Phone number is 833-482-5337, 8334-VALDEZ. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, looking forward to speaking with all of you. I take calls in the final segment of each hour. And usually in the third hour of the show, we do a little bit more calls. And there's a bunch I want to get into. Obviously, big story that continues to be on everybody's mind is the drones. Big deal, right? Big deal with the drones. Of course, the Army-Navy game was this weekend. There's a lot going on with that. There is, let me see, what else is on my list of today's big stories. There was a shooting at a Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin. 3 are dead, including the teenage shooter. We do have a report on that one. Listen to this.
Today truly is a sad day for Madison and for our country. It is a day that I believe will live in our collective minds for a very, very long time.
Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes says they got the call of an active shooter at 10:57 this morning. Officers are responding within minutes to the Abundant Life Christian School and finding multiple people shot inside that building. The gunman, a teenage student at the school, was dead of a self-inflicted gunshot. A teacher and another teenage student were both killed, and at least 6 other students were rushed to the hospital. 2 of those students still in critical condition with life-threatening injuries. Now, the school is a private Christian academy with roughly 350 students, ranging from kindergarten all the way through high school. Police say they had no prior contact with the gunman at the school or any warnings that he was a danger. Investigators quickly obtained search warrants and are currently searching the gunman's home. Police say a handgun was recovered at the school and that the shooter's family is cooperating. The police chief says it is way too early to speculate about a motive.
Many of you have asked me about the why of this. Why did this happen? What do we know? What was the motivation? I do not know. But I will tell you this, our detectives are working hard in the investigative process to find out as many answers as we can so that we can further prevent these things from happening, not only in this community, but in other communities around our country.
In Madison, Wisconsin, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
And in other news, we've got El Trompito doing a little bit of an announcement today with the CEO of SoftBank announcing $100 billion in investment in the U.S. Because of Trump's victory. The CEO of SoftBank, Masayoshi Son, announced a $100 billion investment in the U.S. over the next 4 years during a visit to Mar-a-Lago earlier today. He also promised that there would be 100,000 jobs created and focused on artificial intelligence and related infrastructure. So with the good comes the bad, right? And I'm looking at it that way. Right? I'm looking at jobs in AI as the bad, just because, AI scares everything out of me. But that's a big deal. Trump's not even in office yet. And he's got, major players coming through making announcements about spending some big money here, saying that his confidence is to level the economy of the United States. And he has done so tremendously with this victory. That's what Mr. Son said, President Trump. is a double down president, and I'm going to have to double down with him, is what he said. So good for him. Good for him. I'm hoping that they're doing the SoftBank and Trump made a similar announcement in 2016 after Trump was elected president. Back then, they agreed to 50,000 jobs and $50 billion in the United States. So they've doubled the ante this time around, and good. And Trump saying this time he's doing it because he feels very optimistic about our country since the election. This historic investment is a monumental demonstration of confidence in America's future, and it'll help ensure that artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and other industries of tomorrow are being created and grown right here in the USA. That was El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. Now, we also have some updates on the alarm was sounded, last week by Congressman Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey, saying that there was a ship that was a known Iranian ship that contained drones on it that was in port for quite a while, and then this ship was gone. And then all of a sudden there were drone sightings all over northern New Jersey, just across the river from New York and into central Jersey, now into southern Jersey, and nobody knows what's going on. And we've had some reports on that, some commentary from different people. Some people are saying they think it may be foreign. Others are saying they think it's the United States government conducting an operation, but we're not sure what. Lots of speculation going on there. Even President Trump weighed in on that. Listen to this.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big distance.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster. I want to know the truth. They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
All right, so for El Trompito, listen, I don't really have the luxury of saying I'm going to stay at Mar-a-Lago instead of Bedminster. I only have one house. So, But thank God I'm still okay and I'm still here. I do live in New Jersey, and I'll let you know how that goes. And we'll get an update from Congressman Jeff Van Drew. He's coming up in the next hour to give us an update on what's going on, what he knows, what we know thus far about these drones. I think Trump is right. He says our president knows. Our president, of course, being Joe Biden. He says, I don't know why they're saying nothing. He doesn't know. I don't know either. I would suspect that they're trying to do something to protect Americans from something that they allowed to happen to us because of their own vast ineptitude. And now it's running after the ball rather than, leading. And that's the Biden administration since day one. They've always been playing from behind. So we'll find out more about that. Congressman Jeff Van Drew, the head of Trump's campaign, by the way, during the campaign, he will join us live in the next hour, just about 1 hour from now. So make sure you keep it locked right here for that. And lots of big legal decisions and cases. At the end of last week, we heard the big story of Daniel Penny, the hero Marine that was vindicated in a court of law after they said he had murdered and then criminally manslaughtered, and you name it, they went down the line, and he beat every single one of those charges. So good for him on that. His attorney, Thomas Kenniff, will be joining us to give us, the scoop on that, as well as his thoughts on that Duke lacrosse player repenting about her lies back in the days. And I for one, think good for her. There was nothing in it for her other than clearing her name and her conscience of telling the truth and saying, look, I lied about that stuff and I'm sorry. And I think, it takes a big person to make those types of amends. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. I think we should always give people the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, look, you lied. All right. Thanks for telling us you lied. That's how you make things right. These kids are already into their future. So it's not like it's too little too late because it has no impact on them. It's about just making things right overall. At least that's my opinion. We'll see what Kenniff thinks about that. And, of course, your calls and more at the end of the hour. Each hour, 833-482-5337, 8334-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. And I want to bring in our guest. As I mentioned, big victory last week in the courtroom for Daniel Penny and for his attorney and their team. Thomas Kenniff is with us. Tom, welcome, sir.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Now, Danny Penny was on with Judge Jeanine Pirro on the Fox News channel. I got a quick clip of that I want to play, and then I want to come right back.
Yeah.
You go from a hero to a villain when they say they're going to indict you.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Obviously it's pretty nerve-wracking. It was very anxiety-inducing. Mm-hmm. But throughout this whole process, I would remind myself of the witnesses coming up to thank me. And really, no matter what outcome the trial had, I only cared about what the witnesses said about the situation. And I only cared about their opinions.
He only cared about their opinions because they were the arbiters of truth in many ways, right? They were there, they saw it, they had the firsthand account. Thomas Kenniff, tell us what you think of what he just said, your reaction to that.
I mean, he's right. He's right in a couple of ways. I mean, morally and from a character standpoint, he's right. And that's who this guy is. I mean, look, I'll be the first one to say, as a criminal defense attorney, if you're going to be in business only to represent, the most virtuous, decent people out there, you're not going to be around very long. A lot of our, Stephen Razor and I, we a lot of our clients, we represent some great people, you represent some not so great people, and most of our clients are nuanced, like humanity itself. Danny is really, an unbelievable guy. So the fact that he can, say that, facing down a rabid prosecutor, and all I really care about is what the people who were there, are going to say. I think it says a lot about him. But legally, it was very powerful because what we said from day one is, look, if we're going to succeed in this trial, we have to take these 12 jurors and we have to put them inside that subway car, right? Figuratively. And that's how we strategized this case really from voir dire, when we actually selected the jury, which took over 8 days, to our opening statement, to when we got to actually hearing from these eyewitnesses who described the terror and what it was like to be in a confined underground container with the likes of Jordan Neely. And then we carried that right through summation. I really think that had so much to do with why we were able to be successful.
Were you met with a lot of sympathetic ears to this idea, right? Because this is the idea I had, right? When this thing happened, it wasn't immediate, right? It wasn't immediate that they brought the charges. It wasn't until there was a little bit of chicanery on the back end from the left saying, no, hold on a second. We're not letting this white boy go. We're going to come after him. We want blood. Because from my understanding, Bragg's office wasn't initially interested in prosecuting the case, but then they were. Did you find any sympathy to that particular point when you were going through this process?
You mean from within Bragg's office or just in general?
Yeah, just, in general, people you spoke with, were they saying like, man, it's a shame that they're actually doing this to you? Or were they like, yeah, throw the book at him?
No, yeah. I mean, look, there were people inside Bragg, I would never name names because I don't want to go out of my way to hurt anyone. But I got calls from prosecutors that I've handled cases with in Bragg's office, outside Bragg's office, U.S. Attorney's office. I mean, the cross section of people within the legal community, including many of which who were adversaries or former adversaries, that said what is going on was just resounding. And I could sense from certain people I dealt with early on that were even on the case, and again, I won't name names, that they were, conflicted about what was going on here. And to be honest with you, I guess in retrospect, I'm somewhat naive. I mean, I ran against Bragg. I obviously, right. In 2021, I do not, I thought his policies and the progressive criminal justice movement were utterly wrong-headed and, in fact, lethal. That's the only reason I ran, by the way. I mean, I wasn't, I never had my sights set on politics. But my impression of him in his office was, look, he may be misguided, but, not a bad, maybe, probably not a bad person on a personal level. And I also tried to empathize. I said, look, he's a political, he's a politician, right? He's got a base that he has to be accountable to. The grand jury indicted. It doesn't say much because as the cliche goes, you can indict a ham sandwich, and that's true. But there is an indictment here, and someone's dead. So what is he going to do, right? And right. My impression going up to trial was, look, they're gonna put the case in. They're gonna try the case. They'll give it the old college try and let the chips fall where they may. And then Bragg could go back to his constituents or whoever it is and say, look, the jury did what they did, whether it was a conviction or acquittal. That all right. changed though when I saw how they tried this case. I mean, I saw things in that courtroom, and I've been doing this for almost 25 years. Federal, state, military, former prosecutor, defense attorney. I have never seen the sort of things I've seen during the course of this prosecution, during the course of this trial. And when it changed my whole view of everything, frankly.
Well, what? I want to dig into that a little bit and get your take on exactly what you saw, why it was so egregious, and all of that. First, let me remind everybody, folks, we're on with Tom Kenniff. He is the defense attorney, along with his partner, Stephen Reiser, that were successful in winning this case for Daniel Penny after he was charged with all but killing Jordan Neely in the subway in New York City. He was fully acquitted. Big victory for them, and we're going to hear about that. Plus, we're going to hear about Black Lives Matter and them saying that this was a racist jury. We're going to hear from them on the way back, and more reaction from Daniel Penny himself with Judge Janine. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're coming right back with Thomas Kenniff. I'm Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Why did the jury acquit? Is it because they're racist?
America is inherently biased.
So the jury is racist.
Have you seen the?
I'm asking you a question. No, don't change the subject. Is it because the jury is racist?
Yes.
Okay.
The jurors.
Even the black person on the jury.
Would you like to hear something from me? I believe that even black people can be anti-black. People are predeceived to see black people as a threat and as a victim because people called in. You heard the voice recordings when they called 911. Jordan Neely was in a chokehold for over 4 minutes, turning purple, which black people do in fact do that, and people still saw him as a harm. Even when his body went limp, he was still viewed as a criminal.
That is Shavona Newsom. She's co-founder of Black Lives Matter in New York City, the Greater New York City BLM chapter. And nice leading question from Dan Abrams. That's Dan Abrams on News Nation. Is the jury racist and biased? And he didn't let her off the hook until she said yes. And this is what we're up against, folks. It's a good thing we have good guys like Daniel Penny, like his attorney Thomas Kenniff, who was just telling us about him practicing for almost 3 decades now, and in those 25 years, seeing things he's never seen before, and he was still able, by the grace of God, to pull out a victory here. Thomas Kenniff, welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back.
Now, check this out. You mentioned a few things before the break, and I really want you to just touch on a couple of them so that the listeners can really get a sense of what you saw in the courtroom and throughout this trial that you really hadn't seen before.
Oh yeah, I mean it was vile. I mean it was wickedness. There's no question about it. And look, as you mentioned, Rich, I've been doing this for the better part of almost 3 decades. Trial law can be a contact sport. I've had trials that have gotten nasty, you bloody up your opponent, they bloody you up. Afterwards, everybody, shakes hands and moves on. That's not what this was. I mean, there was a deliberate attempt from jury selection to opening statements to inject race into this trial where it did not belong, where it had no place. There were deliberate attempts to vilify my client, to weaponize his service to his country against him, to imply that he was, some sort of, programmed killer that saw a threat and then just moved to eliminate it. Referencing to him, depriving him of his name, not even referring to him as a defendant, referring to him as the white man. It continued at every step of the way. We would need a whole show to talk about all the things that went on, but it was really, really grotesque and just done with a duplicity too, because, on the one hand, the prosecutor tried saying, he's really not a bad guy. It's going to be hard to convict him in one breath. And then in the other breath, again, you describe him as just a cold, cold-blooded killer that didn't recognize Jordan Neely's humanity. And of course, that was a code. She couldn't come right out and say he killed Jordan Neely because he was black. But what she could try to get away with saying over our objection was he didn't see his humanity. He didn't see him as a human being, which of course was very transparent.
Yeah, a veiled way of saying the same thing.
Very thinly veiled way. But it was awful stuff. And to go back to Bragg, it really, I mean, it all crystallized during her 3-hour summation, which was just filled with all the sorts of vitriol I was just mentioning. And I look back and the first row of reserve seating for the DA's office, that was the first time Alvin Bragg was in the courtroom during the trial. And then there were other senior people from his executive, staff there.
Did he give you the evil eye, or like we say in Spanish, in Mano de Ojo?
I think we avoided eye contact with each other. But the smugness of seeing that whole row of the senior staff of the largest, most powerful district attorney's office, watching on in approval as this, prosecutor did everything she could to try to disparage our client, undermine his character, and vilify him for his military service and racialize this case, and then them all watching on with approval was just one of the most off-putting things that I've witnessed again in about 25 years of trial law.
Congrats on the victory, but this is not something that we're new to, right? We've seen this. What they did to your client, Daniel Penny, is the same thing they did to President Trump in many ways. They just keep going. They bring this hatred and this vitriol, and not even a respect for, I think, the rule of law. Just they use whatever they can as a maneuver to manipulate the law to get the result they want.
Yeah, and kowtow to to the politics of the moment, or their politics, right? Because the politics, even though there were a lot of shifts in this election, even in Manhattan. It's still a place where if you're a Democrat incumbent, you could basically operate with impunity.
Now, I have a couple of questions for you in the couple of minutes we have left. One being, we have a clip of the young woman that had, I guess, perjured herself way back when in the Duke lacrosse case, and I want to get your reaction to that. Listen to this.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong. And I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me. And made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God.
Now, I hear this, and I feel very badly for this girl to have gone through that, and very badly for these boys to have gone what they went through. But ultimately, now that it's done and it's all behind them, I have to say, I guess, good for her, because it seems like she's trying to repent and do the right thing, the godly thing. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if her motives are pure and that's why she's doing this, it's not just to get herself out of a jail sentence or get out of trouble. And of course, I applaud that. I mean, no one is beyond redemption. But it also, it is a cautionary tale and should be an eye opener, to the excesses of things like the Me Too movement, right? I mean, what was the slogan, we heard during the Kavanaugh, believe her, or every victim deserves to be believed. Well, that turns the presumption of innocence upside down. In fact, I've actually incorporated that into my, when I'm picking a jury on a case involving a single accuser or sex assault case, I'll pose to the potential jurors. I'll say, there's two slogans or two, phrases that are you kind of hear in the modern vernacular. Tell me which one you identify with. One is every victim deserves to be believed. The other one is every victim deserves to be heard. And of course, I'm pushing them in a direction, but they thankfully most of them get it right. Is that every victim deserves to be heard. They don't deserve to be believed simply because you made an allegation, right? It doesn't mean that sexual assault is not a big problem. It doesn't mean it doesn't go on. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be dealt with harshly, when it exists. That should not come at the expense of the presumption of innocence, because someone accuses someone of something does not make them inherently worthy of belief. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
And no better case, I think, than the Trump case, right, with E. Jean Carroll, where ABC News' George Stephanopoulos said that he was a rapist. He was a rapist. I think he said 29 times he called him a rapist just in the interview with Nancy Mace. And Trump sued him, and he got $15 million out of them. What do you think about that?
Good for him. And we're seeing some of that with our client. In fact, I was, we were working on some research with some maybe cease and desist letters today. Even after the acquittal, we have Whoopi Goldberg running her mouth, referring to him as a killer. Other people referring to him as a murderer.
Wow.
Unfortunately, they get away with a lot of it because of now the case is considered a matter of public import, so that there's a higher threshold for defamation. But it's awful. And I mean, as far as the E.G. Carroll thing, I mean, just the way that states like New York and other places have rolled back the statute of limitations to appease, again, what I think is the mob mentality with respect to the Me Too and all that stuff is absurd. Because I mean, the whole idea of the statute of limitations is, how does someone defend themselves when someone makes an allegation, 40 years later or 35 years later? I mean, how do you defend against that? And then if you're a polarizing figure like President Trump was in New York, and you're likely to, it's going to be hard for you to get a fair trial to begin with. It's just impossible. So we really have to take another look at what has been done. I know this isn't the subject matter that we're on today with Kenny Penny, but it's something I've always.
I'm happy to talk about it because I think it's all relevant.
Yeah. Well, it's about justice and due process, which is always relevant, despite how, what it comes packaged in.
Right. And do you think, I guess just as a follow-up, that this case with Trump, bringing the whole old case, making it new and bringing it to an issue of public importance, does this help others that are, getting dragged through the mud and they're saying, oh, well, it's because you're a big public figure and that's why we're able to do that. Does this help to normalize it a little bit?
Well, I hope so. And it's and that's another, we can kind of pivot from Danny Penny, we can pivot from the sex assault, but, with respect to the public figures, it has become, I deal with, all the top prosecutors in New York and around the country, and it is sort of it's a resume bullet if you're a young assistant U.S. attorney and you take down a politician. Yeah. It's almost like a rite of passage. Now, look, I have no use for corrupt politicians. I don't have much use for politicians just in general, even if they're not corrupt, to be honest with you. It's an ugly business. I have my views and I support who I support, but, I don't idealize most of these people. But, the reality is that, if you go so overboard with this stuff and, the way these federal statutes are written, it's almost like, they can't lose. We think of, bribery as, hey, someone comes up to someone and says, hey, I want this project, and if you get this for me, here's the envelope full of cash, right? Or here's this, here's that. And the reality is that, the way bribery is defined under the United States Code is much more, oatmealish than that. And it's very easy to jam a square peg into a round hole if your intent is to prosecute someone, whether it's Eric Adams or someone else. And the problem is, you're going to have a situation where, and I think we have it already, where no one decent is going to want to get involved in politics if you know that, hey, it's bad enough that people are going to be reading, what was in your high school yearbook or your junior high school yearbook from 8th grade and everything you ever said and so forth, and your whole personal life just, out for the world to see. But, now you also got an indict me sign on your chest.
It makes it a lot more difficult.
When you have the real thing, you go for it. I have no sympathy for a politician who is, clearly, monetizing their office.
And you're not alone, Thomas Kenniff. You know what? There's a lot of people out there that don't have sympathy for politicians. Most of them think that they're fake, phony, and fraud. And I think that's why Trump gets a lot of credit, because people see him as pretty real and down to earth. Brother, I could do this with you all night, but we're out of time here. Let everybody know how they can find you. If they need a good defense attorney in New York, where do they go?
Yeah, well, we're very reasonable as far. Very accessible, I will say. But our website is razorandkenniff.com, www.RAIS as in Sam, ER, the word and A-N-D, Kenniff, KENNIFF.com. I know that's a mouthful, but if you just Google Tom Kenniff or Stephen Razor or Razor and Kenniff, you're going to find us pretty easily. We're here.
Thank you, brother. Well, listen, folks, check them out at razorandkenniff.com. And hope to have you back on the show in due time. I wish you a good Christmas, a happy New Year, and Godspeed with everything, sir. Congratulations.
Yeah, all the best to you and your listeners, Rich. Merry Christmas to all.
You got it, brother. God bless. Amigos, coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. A little Christmas music for you. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and all the rest of the holidays that we celebrate this time of year. Kwanzaa, Diwali, the Festival of Lights, all of that. I'm sure there's some I'm leaving out. Forgive me for those that I'm forgetting. But I wanted to play a clip for you because as we're just finished talking with Thomas Kenniff, what a great guy, right? Good guy. He was at my table at the Whitestone Republican Christmas party. Councilwoman Palladino from New York City Council. I was at her table with him and my buddy Sid Rosenberg from WABC Radio, the one and the only Curtis Sliwa, the very, very tall Scott Pressler, who's been on our program before, and a few other great, great people. Councilman Carr, New York City Councilman Carr. Really, really just a lot of good, solid people at the table a couple of nights ago, and I'm glad he came on. And part of what we were talking about tonight was Daniel Penny. And Daniel Penny was invited by President Trump and J.D. Vance to the Army-Navy game that happened this weekend. By the way, Navy spanked the Army, and I'm not rooting for them. Actually, everybody asked me, who are you rooting for? And I kept saying, I'm rooting for America because I had no dog in that fight. But the Navy did spank the Army on that. I think it was 31-13 or something like that. And Stephanie Rule from MSNBC had some very interesting things to say. I got a clip. Listen to this.
Right. We saw Daniel Penny, his acquittal, and at the same time, and a very, very, very different situation, but Luigi Mangione, the man who's now accused of the murder of the United Healthcare CEO. Two very different situations, but in both situations, there's a person dead. And reactions that we are seeing are hugely celebratory in some circles, right? J.D. Vance is taking Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy football game tomorrow. And what we've seen in the last few years, right, we see the media divide us. We see that, sex sells, but anger and hate sells even more. How concerned should we be, though, that the American people, groups of the American people, are celebrating violence? Like, violence, that's the solution. That's what everyone should be doing these days.
Wow, violence is what we should all be doing these days. Now, is anybody going to sue her for saying crazy stuff? Now, look, the bottom line here is the media is out of control. And El Trompito, he won this lawsuit against ABC News. Why? Because of exactly what she's doing. These people running off at the mouth, right? I don't have the clip of Stephanopoulos. I wish I did. If I can't get it fast enough. But Stephanopoulos, I think 29 times, he said in that interview at Nancy Mace, and we played the interview when it happened, at least a portion of it. He says that Trump is a rapist. How can you justify supporting somebody that's a rapist? Somebody who has been convicted of being a rapist. He said it multiple times. So the New York Post today in their editorial section says that Trump let ABC News off pretty easy in settling for just $16 million because of George Stephanopoulos' blatant defamation. Yeah, I agree. The judge made it clear in that case that Trump wasn't being charged, wasn't liable for rape. Isn't that something? How they do people? Not let alone that he's a former president. Just as a human being, they will lie about you left and right if you give them the chance. Folks, we're coming right back. Your calls and more. Plus, a whole brand new hour is coming up after this. And Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
To the phones we go. Let's go to James, Danbury, Connecticut, WLAD. James, quickly.
How you doing? And happy holidays to you and your crew. You mentioned at the beginning of the show about a gentleman who was willing to donate a lot of money to artificial intelligence jobs.
Yes, it's actually not a donation. It's a investment of $100 billion from SoftBank CEO from Japan. Stay tuned, everybody. We're coming right back. Your calls and more. It's Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is another hour of our program. We're live, we're national. It is Monday night, 16th of December. Happy to be here with you. Phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation. And we had a lot of discussion in the last hour. We're going to have a little bit more now. And, you know, the way we do it on the show, it's pretty much of a deep dive. We try to get with the experts that know what's going on and really get in their head and get an understanding of things. And for days upon days, we've been hearing about the drones. And, of course, Congressman Jeff Van Drew sounded the alarm on those drones last week. And he's scheduled to be with us in the next segment. So I'm looking forward to that chat, unless the drones get to him first and the deep state prevents him from coming on. That's always a possibility. It's live radio, so you never know. But we do have a report on what's going on with these drones. Check this out.
Can you see it? Right above you.
Across the Northeast this morning, high alert and high anxiety.
There's two more right there.
As the federal government sends extra help to New York and New Jersey, where the governor has now been briefed by the FBI. The first drone was spotted there nearly a month ago. An FBI official says more than 5,000 drone sightings have been reported. But there is still no single answer to what's behind the sightings. Over the weekend, FBI, DHS, and FAA officials said a large percentage appear to be normal commercial, private, and government air traffic confused for drones. But many Americans and lawmakers remain wary. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer urging federal agencies to use special drone detection technology like the Robin radar.
Should not have to shake an 8-ball to get an answer.
After runways were closed at New York's Stewart Airfield Friday night due to drone activity, New York's governor says a detection system isn't enough. Posting Sunday, Congress must pass a law that will give us the power to deal directly with the drones. There is currently no national drone registration system, making it difficult to track who is responsible for so many unmanned sightings. Homeland Security Director Alejandro Mayorkas offering one possible explanation, an FAA policy last year allowing drones to fly at night.
That may be one of the reasons why now people are seeing more drones than they did before. I want to assure the American public that we are on it.
Police in Boston say 2 men were arrested over the weekend for flying a drone dangerously close to Logan Airport. And the FAA is confirming it's now received multiple reports of people shining lasers at planes in airspace over New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
That is Tom Costello, NBC News. And the drone stuff continues to be a hot topic. As you guys know, I've been at Christmas parties, like most of you, I'm sure. I've been at different Christmas parties that they're all, they abound this time of year. But I was at one of my friends from the New Jersey State Legislature, Assemblyman Robert Auth, who's on this show a lot. And Bob had a Christmas party in Bergen County, New Jersey. He had about 6 or 7 mayors, northern New Jersey, Bergen County mayors in the room. And they all had these drone stories going on. One woman that I know who's a regular on this program, Zen Sams, she lives in Bergen County as well. And she told me that she had this huge drone over her home and showed me a picture of it and everything. And she was in touch with her local state senator. And it's a big to-do. A lot of people are very concerned because these things are getting dangerously close. I'm going to say dangerously close. I'm going to say too close for comfort to people's homes, to their roofs, over their backyards, that type of thing. And again, this is not your average, we're getting married, let's take pictures kind of drone, right? These drones are the size of a small car, like big, talking like 10 feet wide, and just really something else. So we're going to get an update on that as we move forward. We got other news, though. There's other stuff in the news that I want to get to a lot, and I don't want to overlook too much. It's Monday, and there's always a lot to talk about on Mondays. But let me see. The stuff with the drones is crazy, and we're going to continue on that for the rest of the hour, plus your calls. I'm going to try to get to those calls as quickly as I can in the fourth and fifth segments of our program. So that's about, I'm going to say 11:40-ish, at around 45 past the hour. Hopefully we'll get to your calls. You got the number for that, 833-482-5337. We also have the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, who's recently been ousted, saying that he didn't consider stepping down or fleeing. He just did. Okay. That's probably something I wouldn't have admitted. Let me see. TikTok is asking the Supreme Court for an emergency order to block the United States ban against TikTok. And I don't know how this goes. You know, I hate to see the government use power to stop a business from doing something unless it's egregious or illegal. And in this case, I think it is egregious that the Chinese government, who is a mortal enemy, I'm going to call them, of ours, has access to American servers, the servers for this company, ByteDance and whatnot. And of course, that means the Chinese Communist Party gets to live rent-free in your phone and your children's phones and everybody else's phones. That's not what any of us need, right? So that's something that I think we have to be very, very cautious of. But sometimes you need that, right? I guess I'll make it akin to deadly force. I think everybody should carry a gun and nobody should have to use them unless you have to, right? And then you do. It's that type of thing, right? The government has power and we should rarely ever use it to stifle any business unless we absolutely have to. I guess that's the best way to put it. And guess who disappeared from Twitter today, also known as X? George Stephanopoulos. He deleted his Twitter account. He did not mention the ABC News settlement where he lost. Him and ABC News had to settle with Donald Trump 15 million smackaroos because of his defamation of President Trump. I'm pretty sure they were thinking, come on, piece of cake. We knew we were defaming him. We'd set the money aside already. We were thinking more like 30 million. Right? I bet you anything they probably were. They knew it was coming. Just like when Sunny Hostin starts running off at the mouth on The View and then comes back and gives her legal update after she says it. The media and the left within the media in particular have been at this for years, saying bad things about people, reporting things that are not as if they are, and then that little editorial note colon, small print, fine print on like page number 6, and it's over. Or at the end of the program, there's a slate that says, oh, by the way. And that's it. It's over, right? The damage has already been done. We've seen that all too often in what we know today is the modern day media. So anyway, I am going to cover a number of things in this hour. In addition to our guest, there's plenty of things to discuss. We've got a judge rejecting Trump's request to toss the Bragg conviction over the SCOTUS immunity ruling. I should have brought that one up with Thomas Kenniff. That was a really good interview, by the way. If you missed it, check it out at richvaldez.com. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to my partners in the jewelry business. It's called Matthias Jewelers, and we had our Christmas party tonight. A lot of people came through to check out the all of the gold and diamonds and watches and all that fun stuff. And it was a really good time. So thanks to everybody who came out to that party tonight. And it's always a good time. And I'm not an athlete or a rapper. And if you see pictures of me sometimes and I have like a lot, I don't usually wear a lot of jewelry, but sometimes I do. And it's only just to advertise this interest that I have in a jewelry business. So, kind of par for the course. But I do not like a few nice things, and as many people do. So that was tonight. That was tonight's affair, and it was a lot of fun. Tomorrow I'll be with my friends from Pillar College in New Jersey. So shout out to my friends from Pillar College. Lots of Christmas parties this time of year, and it's always a good time. Anyway, folks, we're going to continue straight ahead with more on the drones, and then your calls. Don't go anywhere.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Again, getting to your calls in about 20 minutes or so. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. I see we have a few calls on the line. Going to get to you momentarily, and looking forward to speaking with the rest of you. And I want to set up this conversation we're about to have on drones because, again, a lot of people are very concerned about these drone clusters they're seeing in different states. Now, some people are concerned about the proximity of these drones to military installations. Others are concerned about why they're flying with their lights on, because they're saying if they were the bad guys, they probably wouldn't have their lights on. They would have their lights off to try and be stealth. So it's likely something that's our government. Trump today making comments about the drones, saying, look, our president knows what they are. He knows exactly what it is, and they ought to be shot down. Shot down. And this makes sense to me, right? It makes a lot of sense to me. But I want you to hear what Alejandro Mayorkas had to say. And he had a lot to say about this topic because he was talking about drones today, and he's been talking about it for days, number one. But number two, I think it's real important that we understand that his job has always been not to really be Secretary of Homeland Security, but more so to figure out how to do a song and dance to like deny and delay and to obfuscate. Listen to this.
There's no question that people are seeing drones, and I want to assure the American public that we in the federal government have deployed additional resources, personnel, technology to assist the New Jersey State Police in addressing the drone sightings. Some of those drone sightings are, in fact, drones. Some are manned aircraft that are commonly mistaken for drones, and we do see duplicative reporting. But there's no question that drones are being sighted. Let me set the record straight here, George. There are thousands of drones flown every day in the United States. Recreational drones, commercial drones. That is the reality. And in September of 2023, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, changed the rules so that drones could fly at night. And that may be one of the reasons why now people are seeing more drones than they did before, especially from dawn to dusk.
Now, Alejandro Mayorkas here is, again, speaking to us as if we're stupid or as if we're little kids that may have failed to grasp a point. Now, I got to share with you, in my life, in my world, this is a particularly bothersome pet peeve of mine. And that might be a duplicitous. But listen, I don't need you to tell me certain things. I need you to tell me what I need to know. Right? People are concerned about drones that we've never seen before. Right? That seems to make sense. Now, if people are concerned with drones we've not seen before, why would you say we fly thousands of drones every day in the United States? Well, sir, everybody knows that. Nobody was complaining about this 5 weeks ago. Nobody was complaining about this 5 years ago. People are complaining about this in the last 5 days. right? This is a big deal right now. So for you to say, look, we fly drones all the time. I mean, just imagine, right? A cop is pointing a radar gun at your car. You're doing 95 miles an hour. He pulls you over and you go, officer, people speed on this highway. People speed on that highway. People speed on highways all across America. What do you think this cop is going to say to you? Do you think he's going to answer you with pleasantries and platitudes? Or is he going to, send you to where? Obviously. That's exactly why we, the American people, are so ticked off. Because, come on. He's answering questions that we're not asking. People want to know, why are there drones now? This is what people are concerned about. For one, I'm concerned because until I hear an official story, I can only run with the story I make up in my mind, right? My own deduction. What I deduce from texting former guests on this program, people that I talk to, people I use as sources. What can I do? Asking former lieutenant colonels, former generals, this, that, and the third. What do you know about this? What do you think it is? We had on Friday, we had former Navy SEAL and former FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam on. And Jonathan Gilliam said if he had to guess, he would say that these are the United States military's drones. I tend to believe his guess. And I would say that they're looking for something, right? They're not protecting something and they're not attacking something. They're looking for something. Now, the sheriff's office in Virginia said that these drones were flying all over the place and they appeared to be mapping. So from their estimation. So the question could be, were there other drones that were initially here that we've chased out with our own drones? Because we were about to blow them up, but they decided to disappear. I don't know. But let me tell you, it'd be a great time for Joel Barbosa Biden to take a victory lap and say, foreign adversaries tried to send us some drones to check our weather. They want to check that's a thing. That's for real. I'm not kidding. And, and go out there and make a statement and say, we took those drones. We sent our own drones. We out-droned them. Try and be the winner here. But he's not saying anything. Mum is the word. This is not good. People need to know what's going on because we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of people out there saying that, there's a dirty bomb in the U.S. I am not one of those people. I am not saying that. I'm not repeating that. I've got no reason to believe that just yet. But goodness, when people are out there saying things and you're not shutting these things down, when people were out there saying QAnon stuff, everybody was out there shutting that stuff down. Why aren't we shutting stuff down now? People need to know what's happening. Because let me tell you, a mind can run in so many different directions so quickly. And the last thing we need is more fodder for our already overactive imaginations. Anyway, when we come back, we will have some additional information on these drones. And plus, again, your calls are coming up at the at about 10, 15 minutes from now. So keep it locked right here, folks. Again, that number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
Bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And Alejandro Mayorkas, I say this guy should be behind bars. But he was on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, who just lost a lawsuit to El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States and the 47th. And he was on there saying that we know of no foreign involvement with respect to these sightings. Listen to this.
We have not seen any foreign, we know of no foreign involvement with respect to the sightings in the Northeast. And we are vigilant in investigating this matter, the Department of Homeland Security, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the lead.
I think this guy's a fake, a phony, and a fraud. But I want to talk to somebody who I think is the real deal, who knows what's going on, a fellow Jerseyan. You know him as Congressman JVD. Congressman Jeff Van Drew, welcome.
Good to be with you, Rich. How are you?
You bet. I'm doing fantastic, brother. And I want to hear more about this. Let me tell you, I was at New Jersey Assemblyman Bob Off's Christmas party 2 nights ago, and there were 6 or 7 North Jersey mayors in the room, and they were all concerned about these drones. They don't know what or who to believe. Give us an update, brother, please.
Well, let's just use common sense for a change. Let's think about this. What could they be? So some would say, okay, they're the backyard hobbyists. They have drones and they're flying them around. Well, there's no doubt that some of the sightings may be backyard hobbyists, some, people that are just trying to get in on it all, that want to be part of it, that are copycats. But that is not all of them by any means. So you can rule them out as well, because some of these drones are much larger, much more sophisticated, and way beyond the technology anybody would have as just the average consumer. So then the second thing that you think, well, is there a large drone corporation, UA corporation in the United States that's doing some testing some prototypes? They would never do it this way. It would anger the government to whom they'd want to sell drones. It would be dangerous. It would be a public security and a national security issue, and something, again, that they wouldn't do. So then you go, okay, maybe it's the government. Maybe the government's testing a prototype. Maybe the government is looking for something, the U.S. government. But the issue there is the U.S. government, the administration, says that they are not doing anything, that they're not involved, that they don't have these drones. So what is left would be foreign adversarial entities. I'm not saying that is what it is, but what I am saying is because they haven't in any way dispelled anybody's fears, they've given us no information.
Right.
They say they don't know where these drones are from. They don't know who's flying them. They don't know what they contain. They don't know what they're about. They don't know what their mission is. But don't worry. There's nothing to worry about. People are not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. So that's where we are. And I'll leave you with this, Rich, real quick. It really comes down to either this administration is stupid or involved in a cover-up or both.
Yeah, you know what? That part I totally agree with, 100%. Without any other facts, I've seen enough from them to know that's true. Folks, we're on with Congressman Jeff Van Drew. And Congressman, earlier today, President Trump made a statement about these drones. I want you to listen to this real quick.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
So President Trump not spending the weekend in Jersey. Congressman Jeff Van Drew, what do you think?
Well, I think what he's saying is on target. When he says that he believes that our generals know, that our military knows at least, and that our president knows. Maybe the president knows. It depends on what cognitive state he's in any particular day. But people in the administration must know. Again, if they truly don't know what it is, And there is concern out there. Let me give you an example. I'll give you numerous. The Coast Guard has encountered them. We know that they've gone over sensitive military sites. Mm-hmm. We know now, about the Salem nuclear plant in the southern part of the state. In fact, it's in one of the counties in my district, is the Salem nuclear plant. And they contacted us a few days ago, and they said that they observed. Now, this is, again, not some people in their backyard downing a couple beers and having a good time. These were professionals that protect the nuclear plant, that are around the nuclear plant and in the nuclear plant for the first time, observed drones that were the size of SUVs, 2 of them, and they contacted the FAA immediately and said that they definitely wanted their airspace restricted. And so we're talking about real people with gravitas, real people that are dependable. We're not only, and we're talking about former military, Coast Guard, people that are involved in law enforcement. These are people that you have to listen to some degree. So there's something there. And even nobody expects anyone in the military or in the administration to give away secrets. We understand that you have to keep some things confidential, but you could still tell people, these are ours, we're testing prototypes, or what they are. So it is, as the president said, President Trump, very strange, and it's really being handled terribly. And that's why I say, really think this through, all the people that are listening to your show out there, that it is either a cover-up or a case of severe stupidity or both. And it very well may be both, because even if you're trying to cover something up, good God, they're not doing it and not doing very well at it. So tell me, what are they? That's the bottom line. We've got a real issue here, and the American people should expect, and they are owed, reasonable explanations.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, Congressman Jeff Van Drew, you're a former Democrat, and many of these people you know a lot better than I do. What is the deal with all the secrecy? Do you think they're covering up their ineptitude? They're covering up something that's nefarious? Maybe they were asleep at the wheel and they don't want people to know. Do you think there's a possibility that Iranian or some other foreign-backed drones made it into our airspace and now we've deployed our own drones? I don't know what to think anymore.
And that's the problem with all this, because they've left this huge void, because they haven't fulfilled their responsibility to protect America, because part of protecting America is to reassure people that you have it under control. Nobody thinks they have it under control. Nobody thinks that they know how they're dealing with this is an appropriate way. And if they figured it out or presented to the public today what's going on, they still are a day late and a dollar short. This has been going on for about a month now. And when you talk about the Iranian issue, I'm not saying that Iran is involved, but I'm saying that people, and it's the question you asked, with top-level security clearance individuals, multiple sources came to me and said they were concerned and that it was a real possibility, because guess what? Now I broke that open, and now it's commonly known and discussed, but there are Iranian drone ships that are like aircraft carriers, in that
the
these
launch
drones
pads,
can
mothership.
take off of them, and they can land back on them, they can be sent, and they can be received, and they can be hidden. And Israel has expressed concern about it, obviously, because they know what Iran is capable of doing. So again, that one of those ships, at least one, they have 3 now, we know, because a private firm, a private satellite monitoring company, took pictures of them. But one of them left about weeks ago, close to a month ago, and evidently was not tracked, or if it was, nobody's telling. Now they've tracked and found that 3 of them are right off the coast of Iran as of a couple of days ago. But again, I hope that it's not. I would rather that it isn't. But the reality is that people have to worry about all of it, including top security people who are involved. When they come to me, on the condition that their names not be used because they didn't want to lose their jobs. So here's the issue. I don't know. At this point, it sounds like President Trump doesn't even know, but certainly this current administration, which is on its way out, and
They know.
this correct.
And they're not telling us.
And God knows why they aren't telling us.
Yeah, Congressman, are you able to spare a couple more minutes with us? Because I have to take a pause here, and I'd like to ask you a few more follow-ups if I could.
We've got about 5 more minutes. I'd be glad to do it.
You got it. All right, folks, we're going to come right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
With respect to the ability to incapacitate those drones, we are limited in our authorities. We have certain agencies within the Department of Homeland Security that can do that, and outside our department. But we need those authorities expanded as well.
That's Alejandro Mayorkas on ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos, who just lost a lawsuit against El Trompito. And he's saying, look, we're limited. We can't shoot these things down. El Trompito says we should be shooting them down. I agree with him. Nobody needs an extra drone if we don't absolutely need that drone. And Congressman JVD, Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey, who is the guy who's been sounding the alarm on this for the last 4 days. He's been letting everybody know there's a problem here and we need to get to the bottom of it. He's with us. We come back with him. Congressman, thanks for sticking around. And with respect to shooting these things out of the sky, what's up? Why can't we shoot things out of the sky?
Well, first of all, let me just say something about Alejandro Mayorkas. I mean, this is the guy that told us our border was secure. This is the guy that told us there were no problems, that the border was buttoned up. I mean, we're supposed to take him seriously. I mean, he's got to be the worst Secretary of Homeland Security ever. It amazes me that they even still put him on. So, I mean, that's just tremendously disappointing, and quite frankly, it's a joke. So we don't take that seriously at all. The second thing is, now they've deployed, excuse me 1 second. I'm back. They've employed these systems that will actually monitor these droids. So they're droid monitoring systems. They're called UA monitoring systems from unmanned aircraft is the acronym they use, UAS. So they've put that forward now in the last couple of days. Why didn't they do this weeks ago when these were being reported and people were really concerned and scared initially? Put these monitoring systems in place, bring the infrared in, and find out exactly what's going on. But nevertheless, that was not done, and now they decided suddenly now to do it because there's been so much pressure. That's what, I've been trying to do a great deal of, just bring pressure to bear so we get real answers. And thirdly, yes, some of them are airplanes. Nobody denies it. Some people are looking at stars. Some people are looking at backyard drones. Some people are looking at airplanes, but not all of it. You don't get the nuclear power plant people to call and say they are very concerned. This is a real issue and they want to know fly zone. You don't get the Coast Guard to see. I think the Coast Guard kind of knows what it's doing, see what they've seen and be concerned. You don't get former military. You don't get law enforcement. All these folks have had some sightings and had some real concerns. So, it needs to be addressed. Don't need to panic. Don't need to scare people. The only reason people are scared now is because they keep denying there's anything at all. And then they say, well, maybe there are some, but we don't know what they are, who they are, where they're coming from. How can that be?
Don't believe your lying eyes.
Take some of them down. Take them down. Can't take them all down, but the ones you're concerned about, you see some really large drones that have, by the way, some of these have more sophisticated systems on them than anybody local is ever going to have within the states. So take it down, study it, find out what it's about if you really don't know. It may not be shooting it down. There's other ways to incapacitate these drones that the military knows of. and they can take them down, because sometimes, first of all, you don't want to take them down over people's homes. You want to take them down over water or areas that are barren, that don't have any housing or anything, of that nature on it. But it can be done. It reminds me of the spy balloon. We have a balloon last year that went across the country, a large swath of the United States of America. Don't know what it is. Don't know what's going on. It's probably just some sort of a backyard hobbyist stuff. Finally, it looks like it's more, let's shoot it down after it's, received a tremendous amount of information and transmitted it. That was another great job. I mean, America's supposed to be number one. And finally, just so you know, and so your listeners know, we are 10 full years behind China and where they are with drone technology and with drones in general. They have UAS systems, again, which are unmanned aircraft systems. That's the fancy acronym for a drone. They have those systems, and they are way ahead of anything we've got. America leads. America's number one. America should be the ones that are leading the world with this industry. So hopefully, if anything, this will be a wake-up call, and hopefully as we go into a new administration next year, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and Congressman, I know you're going to wrap up now. I just wanted one question on something you said about flying over nuclear sites. On TikTok, the CEO of Saxon Aerospace, John Ferguson, made some comments saying that the only reason somebody would fly a drone at night is if it were looking for something, and indicating that they might be looking for radioactive material, potential gas leaks, or something of that nature. Any truth to that? Is there anything you know about that? Have you heard these reports? Your thoughts?
I know what you know. I know evidently what they say the government knows. Hard to believe.
Yeah.
So, this is what happens when you have a void of leadership. There's a void there. There are no good answers. There's not even a process where they come forward and say, this is what we know. This is how we're investigating, because we push them, because of good shows like yours, because of me being out there, and some of my colleagues, some of my friends like Chris Smith, who are out there that are trying to wake people up. We're letting them know this should be evaluated and we should do better. And that's why I did what I did, because I wanted to light a fire under their backside. But again, could there be truth to it? God only knows, but we don't want to frighten people, and it may well not be accurate. But how do we know when the government itself, when the administration itself says they know nothing? They don't know nothing. Yeah. They know nothing. They hear nothing. They see nothing.
And they say nothing.
And they say nothing. I mean, I've just never heard anything before. You know what that is not? That is not leadership.
Yeah, and it's not the America that I've always known. Congressman Jeff Van Drew, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for sounding the alarm on this and for joining us tonight. Hope to have you back in the new year to get an update on this and everything else that you're working on.
Well, let me just wish, and I look forward to being back, wish you, your family, your listeners, your friends, a very merry, healthy, happy, and wonderful Christmas. And hopefully we're going to go into a golden age of America in the new year. And I wish you all a Feliz Navidad.
Perfecto. Thank you, Congressman. Godspeed to you, my brother. Likewise, and right back at you. Congressman Jeff Van Drew from the great state of New Jersey, the Garden State. He's down the shore. Folks, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, it's open phones across America. We got calls from Boise, Montana, Canada, Ohio, and Ridgefield. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of our program. The phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, it's 833-4825-337-833-4-VALDEZ. And of course, this hour of the program, we like to call it Open Phones Across America, where I get with as many of you as I can on the phone from New York to Alaska to Hawaii, on all the great states that we're in with so many great listeners that we have, and looking forward to hearing from you. And of course, that is a time-honored tradition here on this program, started by Larry King way back in 1978, Open Phones Across America. And Open Phone America was a big deal. And, you know, Larry King had something really nice that he said. I played it the other day, but I want to play for you again, because Larry King said this, and this was something that Jim Bohannon held true for 3 decades as he did the news for Larry King and then held it down on this program. But connecting with people on Open Phones Across America, whether we do it at the end of each hour or in the final hour of the show, there is a magic to it that I don't know how to explain, but Larry King came very close to explaining it when he was on with David Letterman back in 1982. Listen to this.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, you're kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
It is. It is this conglomeration of America all in one room, all on my phone lines, and I absolutely love it. So I count it an honor and to be part of this tradition and to be able to do it with each and every one of you. So thank you for that. Now, we're going to continue with the news of the day, all of the headlines, all of the crazy stuff that's going on, like the CEO of, let's see, what's the name of this company? CEO of Saxon Aerospace, Jeff Ferguson, who says that the drones that are all over New Jersey in New York could be looking for a potential gas leak or radioactive material. And this has been catching a lot of traction on TikTok. We'll get the audio for that, maybe play it for you tomorrow. But, you know, if you're just tuning in, welcome. If you've been with us for the last 2 hours, then super. That's fantastic. You've heard our conversations with Congressman Jeff Van Drew, who sounded the alarm on the drones, as well as a great conversation, very robust, that we had with Daniel Penny's attorney, Thomas Kenniff. Thomas Kenniff actually ran against Alvin Bragg to be DA in Manhattan County. And he also spanked Alvin Bragg when he won a huge victory last week for Daniel Penny, for freedom, for truth, for justice, for America, in my opinion. And we had a really great conversation with him. If you missed it, you know where to go, richvaldez.com. That's Valdez with an S. You can hear all of our interviews there. You can subscribe to the podcast, absolutely free. You don't want to subscribe, you don't have to. You can just play it right off the website and hear it anytime you want, on demand, anytime. And that's a quick plug for our podcast, because you guys have been doing a great job leaving 5-star reviews, and I really appreciate you listening. Anyway, something else I wanted to get into tonight, there's a lot to discuss, was the audio clip from Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith, he's to the left on some issues. I'd say he's to the right on some issues. He's a real independent, in my opinion. And he's a sports guy. He's a superstar sportscaster, and he's terrific. But lately he's been weighing on some things that I think we would all agree on. One of the things I heard him say the other day was that, come on, Oprah Winfrey, you're worth billions of dollars. Why on earth would you charge $1 million from your production company to the campaign for Kamala Harris? Why wouldn't that be an in-kind contribution? Because you know what? That's what billionaires are expected to do. If I own a production company, I'm expected to donate my services. I'll do the interview for free. Guess what? I would, right? Just out of a sign of support. I mean, come on. Imagine that. Imagine I'm supporting El Trompito for president, and he agrees to, he says, hey, we need an interviewer for the campaign. We want to put on a talk show type environment, and we're going to do that. Let's see if Rich Valdez is available. Sure. Hey, Rich, yeah, sure. Hire my company. We'll do it for you for $1 million. A cool mill. I mean, just imagine that. Nobody was doing that. All those endorsements that Trump got, Not a single one of them paid him. I could bet whatever I've got that's worth anything, and I don't have a lot of anything, but I would bet that. Why? Because that's typically how this works. The fact that you got to pay people for an endorsement, crazy. She paid to go on call her daddy. That's crazy. Anyway, getting off topic there. But we have a lot of audio to get to. And I do want you to hear this clip from Stephen A. Smith because sense just happens to make sense. And he's making sense of all of it. Listen to this.
The news comes amidst a bombshell report from the Justice Department that revealed the FBI had at least 26 confidential informants on the ground when the Capitol was stormed on January 6, 2021. The report says most of the informants engaged in illegal activity during the chaos. The Justice Department says only 3 of its 26 informants present had been instructed to observe potential domestic terrorist suspects on the day of the riot.
So now this is a clip of Stephen A. Smith dropping a couple of more jewels for us, right? Here he's talking about January 6th. And this is the one that I wanted to talk about because January 6th has been this thing where most people are unwilling to consider the fact that January 6th was an inside job. And by inside job, I mean one orchestrated and exacerbated by federal law enforcement. Now, I know you're thinking, come on, Rich, now you've sipped that QAnon Kool-Aid. Now there's something wrong with you. No, it's not that. It's that I have sipped the deep state Kool-Aid. I worked in government, and I know what governments can do. And I know, just like you know, that when they don't like you, they will do bad things to you and lie, right? When they don't like you, they'll say that you're a Russian agent, like they did with El Trompito. When they don't like you, they will spy on you, like they did with El Trompito. When they don't like you, they'll go after all your friends, your colleagues, your known associates, like they did to General Flynn, like they're doing now to Kash Patel, like they're doing to Matt Gaetz, like they're doing to Pete Hegseth. They're trying to destroy every last person like they did to Bannon, like they did to Peter Navarro, putting them in jail. This is what they do. So to tell me we're going to have 1 million Trump supporters at something called Stop the Steal, this is perfect for them to say, you know what, we'll put a couple of dozen, 25, 26 of our informants on the ground, some agents. They haven't even released the number of agents they had dressed up as MAGA supporters, because remember, that was asked and never answered in a hearing in Congress. But this report came out that did indicate, yes, there were 26 FBI informants in the crowd on January 6th. We've already seen the videos of the police ushering people into the building. That video exists. So it's okay if the media and the left and the Democrats want to play the unending loop of people clashing with police, but we've already spoken with people that have been incarcerated for more than 1,000 days, right? 1,400 some odd days to be exact, like Jake Lang. And what did he say? He said they were very peaceful until they were sprayed in the face with mace and hit with rubber bullets when they weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't told to disperse. They weren't told to do anything. They just were attacked. And they reacted as such. I get it. I don't condone it. I get it. That's a natural reaction most people would have. It's not like the cops telling you, hey, put your hands behind your back, and they're resisting. That's a different story. This is people that were otherwise calm and were attacked by law enforcement. Crazy, right? Crazy to think that's a thing. But Stephen A. Smith saw these tapes just like you and me, and his opinion's changing. Listen to this.
The rest of the 23 appear to have gone to the Capitol on their own accord. Upon hearing news of the report, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance posted the following on X, quote, "For those keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago," end quote. Didn't hear anything about that for the election. Didn't hear anything about that when the quote-unquote insurrection was broached by Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. The belief that Donald Trump was a danger to democracy and using this as a profound, illuminating bullet point to make that case. And now here we are yet again finding even more evidence to Donald Trump's claims when he articulated that process is rigged. My big issue is that I'm really, really sick and tired of every time I turn around finding something else that the Democrats have lied about or downplayed or misrepresented along the way. I mean, I see Republicans like Megyn Kelly or Officer Tatum or Candace Owens or, the Sean Hannitys of the world. You know what I'm getting tired of? I'm getting to the Democratic Party. You know what I'm getting really pissed off about? I'm getting really ticked off at every time they open their mouth about something pertaining to y'all, they seem right to make the case.
They're right to make the case. Yep, he's right. He's right. So many of us, right, in conservative media and talk radio, you all that call into this program, you guys know what's going on. Stephen A. Smith is figuring this out, and this isn't new. He's been on this show before. He was on not last year, the year before, and he was a great guest. Maybe we should invite him back. Maybe we'll have him in first week. Hopefully coming back first week in January. I'd love to have him back. But he's right, and he's not the only one. The people that are pragmatic, the people that are not sold out. I mean, listen, you could be a sold out partisan and still keep your eye on the truth, right? Nobody's saying that you don't have to be a progressive liberal Democrat. You don't have to stop being that to acknowledge, hey, you know what? You guys won. You're right. You seem to be getting this right. Score for you guys. But they don't claim to be crazy progressive whatever. I think they claim to be liberal on some issues, independent on others. And that's a fair position to have. Listen, I'm the first one that's going to label myself as an independent the day that you have some Democrats that make sense. And I'm not trying to sound partisan there, right? I mean, there are Democrats that make sense on certain issues. You got RFK Jr. makes sense on some issues. Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat until recently, she makes sense on a lot of issues. So, yeah, that's a thing. But when you have actual mainstream Democrats within the party, elected members of Congress, imagine Chuck Schumer comes out tomorrow and says, you know what? To the chagrin of my party, I am going to advocate with the Republicans to eliminate capital gains taxes. We're going to eliminate the death tax because this is unfair. These people pay taxes on this money already. There's no reason for you to pay tax on it again. The day Chuck Schumer says that, that's the day I say, you know what? I agree with Chuck Schumer on this issue, and let's have a conversation about that. Maybe we can meet eye to eye on a couple other issues. But that's not going to happen. Bernie Sanders is never going to say, we need to put an end to the capital gains tax. We need to put an end to the death tax. These people live on taxes, the lifeblood, the mother's milk of politics for them. For me, it's liberty. For you, it's the Constitution. These are the things that matter. It's what makes us go round and round. Without those things, estamos perdidos, right? We're lost. Anyway, keep it locked right there. It's Rich Valdez. I'm coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Feliz Navidad. Merry Christmas, everybody. And we're going straight to the phones, to all of your calls. Everything is on the table, whatever you want to talk about, whether it's drones, whether it's Christmas, whether it's the Democrats that are now losing their stuff. They're losing their marbles because they were so wrong about Trump. And everything else, 833-4Valdez. Let's go to Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC, and check in with Frank. Go for it.
You said earlier you were interested in the jewelry business. What got you interested in the jewelry business, and what advice would you give to people who would like to start their own businesses? And if I have the chance, I'd like to ask another question. Is How did a guy like Joe Biden get the support of so many intelligent people in the Democratic Party? There must be thousands of men better than he. Why did we get him?
This is great. The second question I was just talking about privately on the break with Count Delacula in the control room. But the first part of the question I'll answer. So the number one thing that has me interested in the jewelry business is the skyrocketing price of gold. Gold is at an all-time high. I think it's $2,640 or something close to that last time I checked. And when I saw that, I bought a gold chain for myself when I was like 19 years old. And I think I paid $1,800 for it. It was a very heavy chain, and it was a lot of gold in it. And it was cheap by today's standards. That chain today is probably $7,000 or $8,000 just in the current price of gold. So I realized, man, what a great investment that was a million years ago. And I haven't seen any real instance, Frank, where gold goes down. It just really doesn't really happen much. Since 1849, it's kind of just trickled up. It drops a little bit, but we're talking a few dollars and goes back up, a few hundred, goes down a little bit, a few dollars, it goes back up a few hundred. I mean, just I think a year and a half ago, gold was $1,800 an ounce. Now it's at $2,640. You've got speculators out there saying it's going to get to $5,000. So now that goes one of two ways. Either people are going to buy more gold because they're seeing the increase in value, or B, I'm going to lose my shirt because people are going to stop buying jewelry because gold is too expensive. Now, that hasn't happened yet. I think as long as gold grows in the ground and you can mine it and there isn't something synthetic or even man-made that can rival it, like diamonds, right? Diamonds are once a fantastic hedge against a lot of things, and they're not as much anymore, according to De Beers, the biggest diamond outfit out there, because we, through science, have figured out how to speed up the process of making a diamond, and we can do it in a lab, and it doesn't have to be done on the ground anymore. Still a diamond, still a real diamond. It's just called a lab-grown diamond versus a natural-grown diamond or a mined diamond. And with that, that finite nature of diamonds has dissipated some. So because of that, it doesn't have the same value that it used to have. And that doesn't exist with gold. Gold is still finite. It's still in the ground. You have to mine it. And there's still some that's mined, but it makes it valuable. So my interest in that was the price of gold. I do enjoy a little bit of jewelry here and there, not a ton, but now I wear a little more just to kind of advertise the business. So my advice to anybody who wants to get in any business, and I used to be in the barbershop business and the cell phone business. I've been in business my whole life. I had a small events business. I would say that go for it. Go for it. Figure out something that you think the world can use and that you might have a market for one way or another, and hit it. Doesn't have to be something you like, has to be something that other people like and are willing to put their money behind and into. Now, with seconds to go, I'll keep you on hold if you don't mind, and I'll answer your question on how Democrats went awry with Joe Biden when we come back from the break. Folks, stick with me. I'm going to get to Denise and Ziggy and Jerome and Joe and Steve and Lance and Tony. Don't go anywhere, folks. It's Open Phones Across America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas. So we left off with Frank in Cumberland asking me a question about why so many intelligent people that otherwise vote Democrat voted for Joe Biden. How did he pull the wool over their eyes? And I'm going to get into that. But first, before I do, I want you to hear a clip of a Democrat, a CNN commentator by the name of Van Jones, who speaks to this point specifically. Listen to this.
Everybody keeps, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that, how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots.
Thank you, Van Jones. That is the point. No, not that they look like idiots. That's not the point, although that's like a sub-point. The main point here, for Frank and for everybody else, the main point here is the media. And I hate to use this term because then people start attacking me. Aren't you a part of the media, you big idiot? Don't you realize you're part of the... I understand that. But I'm a very specific part of the media. I don't go on CNN. They don't want me there. Right? I used to go on some of the Spanish networks like Univision and Telemundo. They don't want me there either. But why? Because I said things like Van Jones is saying, and they didn't like the truth. And this is what happened. Donald Trump, I've always liked Trump. I mean, before Trump was in politics, I've liked Trump because the guy's phenomenal. Right? And I mean that in a adjective kind of way. Phenomenal. He just called him a phenomena. And I'm telling you, I believe he's phenomenal. Why? Because when I was a little kid, this guy was the richest guy in New York. And he was like, hey, you know, you think becoming a billionaire is tough? Try doing it twice, right? After he lost his shirt on some investments and blah, 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 and the things that happened in Atlantic City and whatever. But he still hit it hard. And he was always, in my opinion, right on so many issues. And he was just cool. Who didn't want to be like Trump? At least when I was a kid, everybody wanted to be like Trump, including most of the rappers that I listened to that love Trump. So to me, this all changed. The media realized people like this guy. Trump is a smart guy. He didn't get rich being stupid. So they decided to make him out to be something that he's not. They created a caricature of Trump, this orange man bad, making it seem like he was somehow not worthy of being president, that he was incapable of being president, that he was, like just a comical idea because of their smugness, because of their arrogance, and not realizing this man is incredibly successful. This man has leveraged his name through licensing, neckties, dress shirts, suits. I mean, Trump apparel has been in Macy's forever. And again, I've always liked fashion. You know, I some of my favorite shirts are Trump shirts. A handful of my favorite ties are Trump ties. Now, somebody will attack me and say, oh, but you know, they made them in China. I don't care where they made them, honestly. I like these ties. That's all I'm saying. It'd be great if they were made in America, but they weren't. And again, not his fault. He wasn't the guy that said, let's make stuff in China. In fact, he's the guy that says, let's not make stuff in China. He's the guy that started the trade war, right? He puts his money where his mouth is. So I think that's why people like him. Now, Joe Biden was this nice Irish Catholic Democrat, which they believe this is still a big part of the base. You still have this part of the base that is blue-collar union, lunch bucket Joe, sympathetic Irish Catholic Democrat. Super. Let's go with him. Why? Because we can't go with Bernie Sanders, this seemingly atheistic, progressive leftist that, by my standards, is a commie. So if you can't go with Bernie Sanders, but people like those policies, you need to go with a Joe Biden that's open to those policies, that's open to working with Liz Warren, that's open to embracing AOC, the Squad, and the rest of the progressive left. They did that, and this is where it got them. If I were advising them, I would have told them a long time ago. The majority of America, the middle, like Ronald Reagan. The majority of this country, in the middle, they liked Bill Clinton. You give me somebody that's like Clinton in the 90s, that's like Reagan in the 80s, and I'll show you somebody who's going to win. As long as they hold on to some conservative principles. Most people, by most accounts, are pro-life. They are. Most people will tell you that in the media, they'll tell you that everybody's pro-choice. But when they have these surveys People say, you know what, I'm pro-choice if, when it's a blob, when it's 3 months, but after 3 months. But guess what? The left came and said, this isn't about 3 months. This is about long-term or late-term abortion. Late-term abortion, this is about pushing the envelope. This is about the sale of aborted fetal body parts, right? Because that's really where they make their money, this Planned Parenthood. And that story was broken years ago, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it because it sounds crazy or taboo, but that's reality. It's a big deal. So this is why people said, all right, we're going to go with Joe Biden. But I could have told you, and I did. I'm on the record all over the place 4 years ago saying that this guy is no good, and he'd gone further and further to the left. And we saw it before he even got elected when he was saying things. When they asked him on ABC News, it was David Muir who said, Xi Jinping and China, they're known to be a deadly regime or something to that effect. And he said, look, these are cultural differences. We don't do things like they do. That's all he said. The fact that they were killing the Uyghurs, the Uyghur Muslims, that they keep in concentration camps and make the women grow their hair extraordinarily long so they can cut it off and sell it as human hair. It's like a hair farm. They're held there against their will because they believe in Islam, and they're in China, and they lost the right to have their own borders, their own country, Turkmenistan. And we interviewed the prime minister in exile of Turkmenistan, who defends the rights of the Uyghur Muslims. I mean, there's so many things that China does, and Joe was just oblivious, seemingly, right, or complicit, and that's why he failed. Now, how he pulled the rug over many people's eyes? David Muir, all the rest of the friends that they have in the media, the George Stephanopoulos of the world, the Joy Reids of the world, the Rachel Maddows of the world, the Joe Scarboroughs of the world. They once had it, all the folks on CNN. But if you'll notice, Jake Tapper's changed his tune somewhat. Van Jones is changing his tune somewhat. The people that are serious people are realizing, if we don't change our tune, people will look at us like clowns. He said it. We are idiots. We sound like idiots. They have to stop faulting Trump and say, look, we got beat. Go back to selling your ideas. Your ideas have to win in the marketplace of ideas. That's it. The free market of ideas is for whomever wins. And in this case, it was Donald Trump that won. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Frank, thank you for your call. I appreciate both of your questions. Really good and well thought out questions. Folks, your calls and more are coming up right now. We're getting to everybody's call. Paul, Lance, Steve, Tony, Joe, Denise, Ziggy, Jerome, Indiana, South Carolina, Illinois, New Jersey, Ohio, Canada, Georgia, Montana, Idaho, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
With respect to the ability to incapacitate those drones, we are limited in our authorities. We have certain agencies within the Department of Homeland Security that can do that, and outside our department. But we need those authorities expanded as well.
Let's go to Ziggy in Mercilles, Illinois, listening to the show online, richvaldez.com. Go for it.
Mr. Valdez, I listen to you all the time. I think you're great. But I listen to Mark Levin, Dan Bongino, Chris Plant. I think maybe it's time to let the Democrats go. No more talking about it because y'all beat them to death, all right?
What am I going to talk about, Ziggy?
Hey, I'll tell you what. I got a whole lot of things to talk about. At 66
well, let me tell you
old,
something. Let me tell you something. There's a guy by the name by El Rushbo. He started a radio show at a studio that I started my radio show in. 2 Penn Plaza, 17 floors above Madison Square Garden in New York City. He started it in 1988. And he started talking about this thing called the drive-by media, and he beat up on the Democrats, and he did it for 30 some odd years, and he made a gazillion dollars doing it and helped to make America a better place. I mean, it's a pretty solid formula, don't you think? We're still doing it.
How much money do you need to die with? Okay, it's all about greed.
I need a lot. Listen, I got 2 kids in college. I have a very, very generous appetite for the people that I care about. Just as an example, let's say, Ziggy, you were in my inner circle, and I was in a position where I could help you, and I knew that you needed help. Let's just say you were like, oh, look, I've been renting this place for years and whatever, or I own this place, but they're raising my property taxes. I need a bigger place anyway. I am totally the guy that would say, you know what? I'm going to pay the taxes, and I'm going to give you $500,000 towards whatever house you want to have, and good luck and God bless. Why? Because that stuff really makes me happy. I would love to be in a position to do that. So that's how much money I need. I got a lot of friends.
Okay, greed. I'm talking about billionaires that will not help with devastation in
listen, to that point, what people do with their money's up to them. They didn't steal it from you, and they just make this money. They earn this money through blood, sweat, and tears, hard work, ingenuity, being smarter than the next guy. I can't begrudge somebody for being rich. Look, Elon Musk, he's the richest guy in the world. I can never turn to him and say, did you know that there are starving people where you come from, South Africa, North Africa, East Africa? I can't ever turn to him and say that they're starving because he's rich, because they're not. He's not taking anybody's food. He's not taking your paycheck or your salary. The guy's inventing things. The guy is a brilliant dude. And that's usually the case for most of these people. They figured out how to invest well. They figured out what's going to make money. And they do well. So I'm never going to begrudge somebody for doing well. If anything, I'm going to congratulate them.
Look, I worked all my life. I'm a body man, a painter. I restored old cars. I'm 66 years old. I'm getting crippled up. I'm living on Social Security, okay? I can't work no more. I can't even walk the dog down the grass, all right?
Sorry.
My problem is these Democrats are stealing and making nothing but money, and we all know that. I'm not talking about you, the hardworking man that's out there every day on the radio telling us the truth. I think someone said a long time ago, they know the name of the shooter, but they never announced the name of the people
Which
that
shooter?
were killed. Shooter. Well, we just said another shooter.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, they say they want to protect their privacy and whatnot. And you're right. And one of the kids that died in the Parkland shooting, her dad became a big advocate. Meadow, right? Her dad became a very big advocate, and he was out there talking about her name all the time for that reason. Because he said, you know what, they talk about this guy all the time, but they never talk about those people as much as they should. And he made it his life mission to make sure that people knew about his daughter Meadow and who she was and how she lived her life as he fought against the David Hoggs and those people that were out there pushing for all the wrong issues after the Parkland shooting in Florida. So I get your point on that. And to go full circle with you, because I got to move on, but to go full circle with you, you said, I've got to give up on the Democrats. But you just said yourself, the Democrats are out there stealing. And I think you're right. They're stealing the future from my children. They're stealing opportunity. Because when you're talking about spending tax dollars and raising taxes, taking more of your hard-earned money when you're going into your golden years, that's a crime. And that's not something any entrepreneur is doing. That's something that these pigs, these greedy pigs in Washington are doing. And that's disgusting, and I agree with you on that one. But that's exactly why we got to keep the conversation pointed at the Democrats and, honestly, and Republicans that want to go spend crazy like that as well, Ziggy. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I got to go. I appreciate the call, brother. Thanks for tuning in every night. Godspeed to you, and I wish you nothing but the best. You're a good man. Let's continue. Denise in Ridgefield, New Jersey, WOND. Go for it.
Hi. Well, regarding the drones, when Jeff Van Drew was on,
he comes to our VFW post in Summers Point because I'm dually in Atlantic County and Bergen County.
Right.
And there are things that came to mind the minute I heard about these drones. Number one, the casinos. There's 9 casinos, and what's going on if something happens there. And then secondly, being from Fort Lee all my life, the George Washington Bridge is a gateway, so that concerns me. And nobody's really owning up to the fact that, it's mine,
Right. And, you bring up a good point with the George Washington Bridge, the busiest bridge in America. And, yeah, and I was on it a couple of times this week, and I had to tell you, I was like, now I know why they call it the busiest bridge in America. With no traffic, you can get across that bridge in, like 4.5 minutes. And with traffic on it, you could be there for an hour. It is just crazy. But you're right. This is a very populated place. By most accounts, New York City, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, the most populated parts of America, hands down. More people per capita, like per square foot, than anywhere else in the country. And we have a right to be concerned, which is why I brought Jeff Andrew on, because I want to know what's going on. You sounded the alarm. Let's talk about this, and we're going to keep talking about it. We're going to bring back Air Force General Blaine Holt to get his take on all of this and see what his contacts are telling him. I want to get to the bottom of this. But you're right. This is something that we should be concerned about, and it's happening all across New Jersey and in other states as well. I'm hopeful that in the next few days we're going to find out what's going on. By Trump's tone, I sense that he's probably got a handle on what's going on, despite maybe not knowing, because he's being kept in the dark, just like Congress is being kept in the dark. A lot of people are being kept in the dark, and that's a shame. But I have a feeling that that's going to let up pretty soon. At least that's my hope. Let's go with Joe, Akron, Ohio, WNIR. Go for it, Joe.
Yeah, I got a little bit of information. Prior military, Air Force.
All right, quickly.
I've got something here that says that the drones are part of a military drill being conducted by Space Force, and everything is a need-to-know basis, which is why there's a lot of confusion. And also, there are additional full lockout drills that are going on.
Makes sense. I read about one of those last Friday in the Friday show. We heard about the TRUAS, the Truist. There was a drill similar to this that went on last year. Or actually in April, earlier this year, forgive me. No, it was April 23. And very similar to this. I think it just didn't get the same attention that this got. And I don't know if it's the same or not, but that was the government. And I'm leaning in that direction. But again, I just don't know. Getting conflicting stories. Folks, keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, so my producer tells me that we're almost out of time, but I am not going to let this end without people knowing your thoughts. Bob in Long Island, New York on WJJF says that this might be a setup from Iran. You know what, Bob? You might be right. It's anybody's guess at this point. Sarah, Bedford, Indiana. Bernie Sanders is afraid. I think he's afraid too. I'm afraid of death of him ever getting forward in life. Jerome, Charleston, South Carolina. Brother, you're the reason the Democrats are losing. Tony in Canada, thank you, brother. Stephen, Atlanta, you're right. It might be Iran. I don't know. Lance in Kalispell, the media, I blame them all. You're right. It's very bad, very sad. Paul in Boise, God bless you, America. Rich Valdez coming back tomorrow.